Okay, so now again, priority non-preemptive. Mind you, we are in priority non-preemptive version. Okay, yep. So the Gantt chart for priority non-preemptive is something like this. Okay, Gantt chart obviously starts at time 0, and from time 0, obviously at time 0, P1 is the only one which is currently available. So P1 will start off. There is no other process currently in the queue because of the arrival time. So P1 is the only one. So we have no option irrespective of what the priority is. P1 will be scheduled and it will continue till 10 because we are in a non-preemptive. So the process will be voluntarily allowed to complete its execution. Now the current arrival time is 10. So in the meantime, P2 and P3 have also arrived, right? 3 and 4. So while P1 was executing, these two have also arrived. But obviously, we are now working with the priority technique here. So we are more worried about the priority. As I've told at the beginning, I am assuming that a lesser number here indicates a higher priority. Okay, so in this case, P2 and P3 in comparison of the priority column, you are able to see that P2 has a lesser number in comparison to P3. So obviously P2 will be scheduled first, right? So P2 has a higher priority than your P3. So P2 is scheduled. P2 will continue till 7 units of time from 10 because of non-preemptive version here. So 10 plus 7, that comes up to 17. And 17 is the current time, right? So what we have completed so far is P1 and P2, right? Now the current time is 17. Now in the meantime, P3 and P4 are, because P4 has arrival time of 12, which is less than 17. So obviously P4 has also arrived into the queue. Now both are available in the queue, but among these two, again, we are more worried about the priority here. So P4 has a lesser number in comparison to P3. So P4 will be given a chance to execute here. And P4 will continue for its burst time because it's non-preemptive. So it voluntarily allowed for 1 unit of time. It will continue till 18. So P4 has also completed. Now in the queue right now, P3 was supposed to execute, but then again, arrival time 18, P5 is also there. Okay, so 18, at current time 18, we have P3 and P5 available. So obviously P5 will be given a chance because of a lesser number here, that is higher priority. P5 will be given a chance to execute for 5 units of time, that is till 23. And the remaining one is obviously P3. So P3 will also complete last, which is 23 plus the burst time, that is till 29. Okay, so that's your Gantt chart for priority non-preemptive version, right? Now, obviously, my mistake, sorry. Just give me a minute. Sorry, yep. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the computation of wait time and turnaround time. So as I've already mentioned, wait time is start time minus the arrival time, and turnaround time is the completion time minus the arrival time. So let's start working on the wait times for P1, P2, P3, and P5. So P1 is start time is 0 minus the arrival time, so that is 0 minus 0, which is 0. P2 start time is 10 minus its arrival time is 3, so that is 7. P3 start time is 23, so 23 minus its arrival time is 4, which is 19. P4 start time is 17, so 17 minus its arrival time is 12, which is 5. And P5 started at 18, so 18 minus the arrival time is 18, which is 0. So the average wait time is obviously sum of all this divided by total number of process. That comes up to 26 plus 5, 31 divided by 5, which is 6.2, right? Now, similarly, we'll compute turnaround time as well. So turnaround time is completion time minus the arrival time. So P1 completed at 10. So that would be 10 minus 0. P2 completed at 17. So 17 minus its arrival time is 3, which is 14. Then P4 completed at, my mistake, sorry, P3. P3 completed at 29. So 29 minus its arrival time is 4, which is 25. And then P4, yeah, P4 now completed at 18. So 18 minus the arrival time is 12, which is 6. And lastly, P5 completed at 23. So 23 minus its arrival time is 18, which is 5. So the average turnaround time is again sum of all this divided by 5 total number of process. So that comes up to 24, 30, 55, 60. 60 by 5, which is, as of now, it appears that this is better. Correct? Okay. Now let's go for the preemptive versions. All right. So priority, there is also a preemptive version. So let's take a look at that also. Now, mind you, in preemptive versions, we will try to focus on the interrupts also. Whenever there is an interrupt, the currently running process will be temporarily suspended and it will resume at a later point of time. Okay. So let's start with the Gantt chart first. All right. So at time 0, obviously the Gantt chart will start at time 0. So at time 0, currently P1 is the only process which is available. So there's no option but for P1 to schedule, right? Now P1, unlike your priority where it continued till 10, as you're able to see here, but P1 in this case will temporarily be halted at time 3 because of the interrupt here, because this is a preemptive version that we are working on. So we have to focus or pay attention to the interrupts as well. So P1 will temporarily stop at 3 and start comparing the priorities. Now, who gave the interrupt? Obviously, process P2 gave, it arrived at 3, so it gave an interrupt. And P1 was running with a priority 2, but P2 interrupted with a priority 1. So lesser number, higher priority. So that's the reason P2 will now be given a chance. So P1 is now temporarily suspended here. I hope you are able to make sense out of that. Okay. So I will also take into account the remaining time here. I will be taking a note of them. Okay. So P1 has completed 3. So that gives us the remaining time for P1 is right now 7. I'm just keeping track of that also. Now P2 has arrived at time 3 with a higher priority. So P2 will be given a chance here. Right? Now P2 was supposed to execute for its burst time of 7, that is till 10, but then suddenly there's an interrupt at 4, that is P3 has also arrived now. Right? Now obviously we need to compare the priority of that process also. P2 was executing with a priority 1. Now P3 is arrived at time 4 with a priority 2, which is giving us a notion that P2 has a higher priority because lesser number indicates higher priority. So obviously P2 will be temporarily stopped at 4 to compare which process has interrupted and what is its priority. Now, because P2 has a better priority than P3 here, which has interrupted, so P2 will continue to execute here until when? Until either it finishes off or until either there is a next interrupt. So the next interrupt is at 12, but then P2 doesn't need to go till 12 because of its burst time is 7. P2 has already completed 1 here and the remaining time is 6. So it will obviously continue till 10 here and stop because it has no option because of the burst time. It completed its burst time, so it will come out of the system obviously. So P2 has completed now, but current time is 10. So I can't keep my system idle. I'll go back to the other process which I've already arrived. So P1 and P3 are right now in the wait queue because P1 was temporarily suspended, but P3 didn't continue because of a bad priority here. Now P1 and P3 have equal priority here, as you're able to see. 2 and 2 both have same names. So when they have same number or same priority, obviously we'll go back to the FCFS technique. So whichever came first, that will be given a chance. So P1 has arrived first in the wait queue. So obviously P1 will be pushed to execute. Now P1 already completed 3 units of time. The remaining time is 7. So it starts to execute here. It was supposed to continue till 17, but then there is an interrupt at 12 because P4 has arrived at 12. So obviously P1 will be temporarily halted again. Now what is the remaining time? So obviously out of the 7 remaining time here, 2 units have completed. So the remaining time for P1 is now still 5. Okay. Now who interrupted? P4 has arrived at 12. It has interrupted. So obviously I'll have to compare P1's priority with P4's priority. So P4 has a better priority because lesser number indicates higher priority. So P4 will be given a chance to execute. Until when? Until either it finishes off the burst time or the next interrupt. So the current time is 12. So the burst time is 1. So it can continue till 13. So P4 will complete its execution because there is no interrupt at 13. So I can go back to the wait queue. So in my wait queue again, P1 and P3 are still pending. P1 with a remaining time of 5 and P3 hasn't yet started. So it has a burst time 6, but both have equal priorities. But because P1 arrived first into the queue, so that will be given a chance first. I'm sorry. So P3 has arrived at time 4, right? So P3 did arrived at 4 and P1 it started and again went back into the waiting queue. So its arrival time in the wait queue is how much? 12. So the arrival time, the current arrival time. So the current arrival time is 12 into the wait queue, but P3 has arrived at 4. So P3 will be given a chance here. And P3 will start to execute. It was supposed to continue till 6 units of time, that is still 19. But then it will be halted at 18 because at time 18, P5 has arrived. Right? So P5 has a better priority. So P5 will be given a chance, obviously. And P3 has completed 5 units of its burst time from 6. So P3 remaining time is 1. Okay. Now P5 will be scheduled. And after 18, there are no more arrivals. So there won't be anybody to interrupt. So obviously P5 can continue for its entire amount of time. That is 5 units of time from 18, that is till 23. Right. So P5 also completed. And P3's new arrival time is 18. So at 18, it stopped temporarily and arrived into the wait queue. And P1 arrived into the wait queue earlier at 12. And P1 and P3 both have equal priorities, but P1 arrived first. So P1 will be scheduled. So P1 will continue for 5 units of time. Its remaining time here. So that is till 28. And lastly, followed by P3. It was having a remaining time of 1 as we have calculated here. So this is also done. 29. So again, as you are able to see, 29 is the last point. right? Now using this Gantt chart, we will again go for the computations of wait time and turnaround time. Now to make things easier for you, what we will do here is, because every process is stopping and starting here, as you're able to see, P1 started at 0 and stopped at 3, again restarted at 10, right? And again restarted at 23. So in this case, wait time will be effective wait time, not just the wait time. That is wait time here in the non-preemptive, we had start time minus the arrival time. Turnaround time was completion time minus the arrival time. But in this case, we'll have multiple start times. So because there is multiple start times, to make things easier, we will first try to compute the turnaround time. And wait time, we will simply calculate using this formula. So turnaround time minus the burst time. Wait time will simply be turnaround time minus the burst time, which is much simpler for us to calculate. So let's first start with turnaround time for P1, P2, P3, P4, and P5. Okay, so P1 turnaround time, P1 completed at 28. So that would be 28 minus the arrival time, that is 28. Then followed by P2. P2 completed at 10. There's no more instance after that. So 10. So 10 minus its arrival time is 3, which is come to 7. Then followed by P3. P3 completed at 29. So 29 minus its arrival time is 4, which comes to 25. Then P4 completed at 13. So 13 minus its arrival time is 12, which is equal to 1. Then followed by P5. P5 completed at 23. So 23 minus 18, which is 5. So the average turnaround time will be sum of all these again divided by 5, total number of processes. So that would be 35 plus 25 is 60, 61, 66. 66 by 5, which is again 13.2. All right. Similarly, wait time. Wait time can simply be calculated like as per the first formula, start time minus arrival time. If you are doing that, it will be 0 minus 0 initially, plus you would again have to do this also, 10 minus 3. So P1 actually waited in between these times. So this should also be considered. Similarly, it again stopped at 12. So this duration should also be taken into account and restarted at this. So simply it would be 0 minus 0 initially, plus 10 minus 3, plus 23 minus 12. So that would be 11 plus 7, which is 18. Plus 0 minus 0 is 0 anyway, so 18. So because this is like kind of confusing, so I thought you would be much easier, with going for this formula, turnaround time minus burst time. So that would be 28 minus its burst time, 10. So that would anyway give you the same value. Either way is okay. So even if you are doing this 23 minus 12 plus 10 minus 3 plus 0 minus 0, you would still get 18, or directly 28 minus burst time 10, that is equal to 18. So you would anyway get the same value. This is much easier for you. So that's the reason I told you that first calculate turnaround time and then go for wait time using this simple formula. Okay. Now P2. P2 is 7 minus the burst time is 7. That is 0. P3 is 25 minus the burst time is 6, which is equal to 19. P4 is 1 minus the burst time is 1, that is equal to 0. And P5 is 5 minus the burst time is again 5, which is equal to 0. So the average wait time would be sum of all this divided by 5, that is 37 divided by 5, which is 7 point, yeah, you would get 7.4 actually. Hope you got the point here. Okay, so that's for priority, right? Now let's move on to SRTF, right? So let me just quickly copy this part here and move on to a new window.